Hi, this is Andrew Davey, Nevada Forward, and we're here with Sylvia Lazos from Educate Nevada Now. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew.
So, to start with, these past few days, we've all been talking about what's happening at the Clark County School District. Some major changes
Yes.
coming, in addition to all the changes we already know are coming. Now, Superintendent Skorkowski will be leaving next June. CCSD will have to start looking for a new superintendent.
That's
So, what was your first reaction when you learned that Skorkowski was planning to leave?
Well, we knew that his contract was going to terminate in June of 2018. I think he just made it public that this would be his last 10 months. I think that Pat has had a good run, but in 2018, I'm looking forward to fresh leadership and having the ability to rethink where we want to go in CCSD in terms of education. It is unfortunate that this came together with the budget cut so that it seems like he's being run out of town. But I think in reality what we have is an orderly transition to new leadership and that his term has been a productive one. We definitely have more work left to do, and that's going to be the job of the trustees with a new superintendent to take on the challenges that are remaining, which
Yeah.
are quite a few.
You mentioned the proposed budget cuts. Last I saw, looking like it's around $60 million.
Yeah, and maybe more. And I think that what we have to understand as a community and as parents is that the funding for Nevada for general education is just incredibly low given who we are as a state, the amount of economically disadvantaged children that we have, more than 60% in Clark County alone, and the number of children who are immigrant children who need to be learning English as they progress in school. We are not simply providing enough support, enough dollars for teachers to do their jobs, and that's fundamentally the problem that Clark County is facing. Washoe is facing it as well. It's not just splashed in the papers, and our rurals are under extreme stress. I mean, the rurals will tell you that they cannot provide services to special ed children, ELL children, and that each year they're actually having to cut back on staff as opposed to increasing staff and opportunities. So in our research, in our conversations with every school district in Nevada, there is not a single Nevada district that is not suffering and is not having great difficulties in making ends meet.
Now, this might come as a surprise to many Nevadans, especially since it was just a little over 2 years ago when the legislature and Governor Sandoval agreed to a major revenue-raising tax reform plan that was supposed to bring in all this new money to go into public education. So that's why sometimes when around the community, people ask, well, you raised our taxes, so where's the money? Why are you still crying poor?
Well, we didn't. We raised the taxes on businesses, not on individuals. That MBT tax brings in about $180 million a year. The total need for just covering, high poverty, economically disadvantaged children is about $200 to $250 million. Special ed children, the amount that we underfund them is another $300 million. ELL children, we estimate another $200 to $250 million. And I have not included what we should be doing for our high school kids, which is vocational training, education, CTEs. Each CTE high school costs $20 million just to build. And we only have 5 in Clark County. We should at least have twice as many. So my point here is our underfunding is so severe in Clark County and in the rest of the state that this $180 million MBT was a relief. But we still have a property tax cap that is starving Clark County and every school district, as well as local government. And yet we continue to grow as a state. We're dynamic, we have a great future, and we're not feeding our youth, which is our future, sufficiently with good programs so that we have high confidence in the workforce in the future. I'm personally concerned about this because we need to have a good CTE high school program. We need to have every kid be able to do math, be able to write a paragraph, to be able to have a business conversation. And I can tell you right now that is not the kind of kid that we're producing from our high schools. And it is not due to terrible teachers, terrible managers, terrible kids. It's due to the fact that we're not supporting our education system.
Yeah, I think that's a common misunderstanding that the bulk of the new revenue raised in the 2015 tax deal went into special programs,
Yes.
such as the Zoom schools, the Victory schools, the new school healthcare programs, and not
Social
necessarily,
workers, read by 3 gates. But that general ed kid, the guy that goes to your local high school, let's say El Dorado, he is, or she is, in a English classroom with 45 other children. He or she is going to a math classroom with, again, 45, 60 other children. He may have a period where he is at the computer on his own and is being trusted to be able to do programs at the computer. He or she is not necessarily receiving the one-on-one coaching that many of our kids need. We make our kids start falling behind in 4th grade. We are 46th in the country on reading skills for our kids by 4th grade. So already in 4th grade, they're falling behind. By the time they get to 8th grade, about half of those kids are behind. So what we are seeing is not sufficient support at any level, and certainly by the time they get to middle school and high school, we're putting them in such large classrooms that the teachers have to do triage. Which of these 40 kids do I choose to help? And the rest are just going to have to make it on their own. That's not acceptable because every kid is a life, it's a hope, it's an opportunity. And certainly for our workforce, we need every kid to be at his maximum productive capacity. The kids that don't make it, where do they wind up? We have some data from a local middle school. Those kids that are in there are not making it. Where do they go? They go to CCSD Detention Center.
Wow.
And that's what we mean by the school pipeline. The kids that can't get the support and the attention of the teachers fall by the wayside. They don't go to another state, or they don't go to a online school. They go to CCSD Detention Center. And I truly believe in my heart that that is not the state that most Nevadans want. I think what most Nevadans want is what the governor calls New Nevada, where we can have and be competitive with every state in the future to provide a workforce for an Amazon, for a Tesla, without having to import workers from Arizona or California.
Yeah, and on that note, what do you think CCSD, the school district, needs to do, and what do you think the state of Nevada needs to do to actually realize this goal of the New Nevada, to actually fulfill, what Governor Sandoval has talked about in terms of modernizing the state's economy?
Well, I think CCSD has to focus on the basics, and the basics are a high-quality teacher in front of every kid in every classroom, and high focus on instruction, and high focus on being able to function, in the basics, in science, in reading, in mathematics. I myself think that the reorganization has taken attention away from the basics. But I think that if we focus first on what's most important, and that's meeting our goals under the Nevada plan for every kid to be proficient, we will be okay. Reorganization is great because we want to have collaboration, we want to have parents involved, we want to have publicity about what the budgets are, but we can't let reorganization distract us what's most important, and that is to help every kid be able to be successful. So I think that we need the money to help those teachers do their job at the CCSD level, and from their management perspective, emphasize instruction, reward high-quality instruction, reward those people that are doing a great job. From a Nevada standpoint, we need to do the math. How much does it cost to educate special education children the way that the law requires, and we think they should be required? Provide the funds to do that, and don't expect magic to
Yeah.
provide those funds. Right now, Clark County School District has to take from the general education budget over $200 million, over 10% of their budget, to complete the funding for special education kids. That means that a general education kid gets 20% less than what they should get to be able to have that classroom computer, or to be able to have the smaller lab so that I can catch up on my writing. It's hurting every kid. And so I think from a Nevada, from a community, from an adult standpoint, we have to understand what it actually costs. When I do a budget at home, I don't kind of imagine that this money should be enough to cover my cost. I sit down and I look at every item, and I make sure that I'm adjusting, making sure
Yeah.
that I have that money there to provide for my family. And we as Nevadans should be doing the same for every child, for that rural child that's suffering, for that kid up in Washoe County, for that kid in CCSD that's in a rural school district, or that kid in CCSD that are in these high poverty neighborhoods. I truly believe that every child is our child, and when we live up to that commitment as adults, that every kid is our kid, and we're willing to look at what it costs to educate our kids, and come to terms that our property taxes should be capped, that maybe we should increase sales tax by 1%. We have the capacity to raise those monies that are needed. We have the wealth. And when we finally come together on that, this is the need. Gosh, it's only a 1% more tax, or let's get rid of this property tax cap. When we do that, we will be that new Nevada that we all want to be, and that Governor Sandoval has talked about so eloquently in his 2 terms in office.
Yeah.